Hi, it's Brian Egger at BreakingCall.com. Today I caught up with Peter Hans, the CEO and co-founder of Harvest Exchange. Peter has had an extensive career on the buy side and sell side of Wall Street before launching Harvest, most recently as a founding member of Height Analytics. Thanks again for listening. Good morning, everybody. So this is Brian Egger with BreakingCall.com. I am pleased to be joined this morning by Peter Hans, the co-founder and CEO of Harvest Exchange. And Peter, what I may do is begin by just asking you a few introductory questions, but thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So what I'd like to do is just for people listening that are not familiar with Harvest is begin by asking, what was the inspiration behind Harvest Exchange? How did all this get started?
Sure. So prior to launching Harvest, I had a 14-year career on quote-unquote Wall Street, sell side, buy side, different asset classes. And what I noticed throughout that time, just, obviously learning quite a bit, is that it's a really insular world. People are constantly sharing ideas, investment perspectives, theses, but they're doing so in a really antiquated ways. So one day, I guess a little later on in that career, I was meeting with a multi-billion-dollar hedge fund in New York with a colleague of mine, and the same question that comes up in every meeting you have with peers is, what do you like? What are you thinking right now? What investment ideas do you like? What are your best ideas? And then it kind of struck me that there has to be a better way here. I think it was 2012 when that happened, to share this information. And not only to do that, but to accelerate it and democratize it so that it can really benefit everyone involved.
Great. Now, I think some of our listeners are familiar with certain social finance platforms. They may know about StockTwits and the likes of SumZero, which also features written financial research. So just to put this into some context, maybe we could talk about what differentiates Harvest from other social finance platforms that also feature what I would call investment content.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So I look at, first let's just kind of bifurcate the space into open networks versus closed networks. There are obviously some like Vic and even SumZero that do have a lot of high quality investment information. The problem is they're completely closed. So you have to either be accepted or be on the buy side to access them. So that in and of itself is very different than kind of who we are and what we stand for and what we think our value proposition is to everyone. Looking at the kind of open and public landscape, the one thing that always frustrated me was, yes, there's access to seemingly limitless information, but there's a lot of noise. And it is very difficult to filter through that noise. So our core value, and I think the way we really differentiate ourselves, and this has proven true in our, kind of quick 7 months since launch, is that everywhere you look, just online or mobile, it focuses on what the information is, what's going on right now. You mentioned StockTwits. I think actually StockTwits is a great product, and I use it. It's very good at telling you what is going on in the market right now, and even to an extent why people think that is happening. We take a very different approach, though. We don't care as much as what is going on right now as we care about who is delivering the ideas and the information and perspective. And I think by focusing on who as opposed to what, we're able to deliver quality information, vetted and verified quality ideas and information from the right people versus quantity. So we're not, despite, I guess, building up a database of nearly 30,000 posts and ideas and investment perspectives in a pretty short time frame, you wouldn't necessarily know that by joining and logging on to Harvest right now, because we ensure that the quality is constantly seen, and throughout our variations of the products going forward, we'll be doing more and more of that.
Understood. Now, I know Harvest has been associated with some fairly prominent so-called activist investors like Dan Wills and Kyle Bass. And I'm curious to know how important is the role for the website's content, and also other than tapping into what some of those individuals are thinking, what are the different ways that investors have begun to use the Harvest platform?
Sure. So I guess in terms of how important very high quality investors are in terms of adopting the platform, it's extremely important. I would say, Dan and Kyle, Third Point and Heyman, as individuals and individual firms, not terribly important because, an entity like that isn't going to be, posting content on a very regular basis, which again, I think gets into a differentiation between, us and an entity like Stockwoods. You might see something from Third Point 2 to 4 times a year, maybe, depending on what they have going on and what they want to communicate and how. But in terms of the broad spectrum of high-quality professional investors, it's extremely important. And that was part of the difficulty and the challenge we really faced. It was kind of a chicken and the egg issue. Was we want to build this high-quality platform and really ecosystem and marketplace, but you have to grow that through proving it and through quality content. So we just very slowly, organically happened first, talking to contacts, friends in the industry, talking to them about what the vision was and the value, and getting a little bit of goodwill early on until the community really started to sustain itself. And thankfully we're at that point now. But we manually verify professional investors. We ensure they are who they say they are. They work at the types of funds they say they work at, and we differentiate that content between someone who isn't verified. So even if, for instance, Warren Buffett joined Harvest, which to my knowledge he is not a member, but did so anonymously, his content would face a tougher, uphill battle of being seen than a hedge fund manager who manages $25 million who went through the process of manually verifying his identity.
Understood. That is great context. And I just had one final question to put this in perspective. As you think ahead regarding your vision for the future of Harvest, and I know it's still early days in many respects, can you tell us anything about the business model, about how you would like this to function as a commercial enterprise, or anything else you can tell us?
Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely share a little bit. First and foremost, our goal is really building that ecosystem, which is obviously difficult to do, though I think we are succeeding in that. I think to answer that question, though, maybe I'll just go back and address what you asked me just a second ago, is how different types of entities are using Harvest right now, because we do have a pretty wide swath of them. We have some very large international asset management firms like Mason and Third Avenue. And firms like this actually, they produce content right now with the goal of reaching their target audience, predominantly investment advisors. The problem is, back what I said at the beginning, there are so many places to go to get that information. No one really goes to their websites to do so. And secondly, distributing it in other means isn't very effective because you're not going to reach the high quality audience, and then you're not going to really scale it. So firms are really using it right now, big, more established ones, to get some sort of message across that's transparent, whether it's trying to win a proxy fight in an activist battle, or whether it's trying to reach a number of investment advisors, or just trying to build your brand. People are using it that way. Smaller entities and firms are using it to really get discovered. There's some great products and people and services out there that have no venue for getting their message out there, and Harvest has proven a really great tool to do so. And then, some just to share ideas and information, and individuals are really using it, much the same way I used my, somewhat insular network when I was working on Wall Street, which is accessing information, sharing information, and, we've built a really interesting tool into Harvest, which is just a portfolio simulator. It's long, short. We give you a virtual $1 million. And at first we envisioned this being, kind of an engagement hook, something that is a little competitive, something that people have fun with. But what we found people are using it as testing out their ideas, testing out the ideas of others, and actual professionals using it to, establish and build their track record. Students using it to show off, some of their skills as they look for jobs. So that's become a really interesting tool and something that we're going to, make a lot more robust and real world simulated going forward. So the mission for Harvest long term is actually pretty simple and straightforward. We just want to help investors grow, and we want to do it by improving their ability to communicate their expertise so that others can discover the right people, the right products, and the right services that fit their needs. And I think there's a big hole in the market for that.
I know that other platforms like StockTwits, which we mentioned, part of what they have begun to do as they've matured is to market or sell their API data to other financial media platforms and vendors. And acknowledging that it's still early days for Harvest, is this something that we might see down the road where will Harvest eventually data begin to migrate elsewhere, or is it likely to remain kind of a proprietary set of information?
It's impossible to say. As of right now, we're not doing anything in that regard, and I think also that kind of speaks to the difference between what StockTwits offers in a value proposition and what we talk about. So StockTwits, given their focus on here and now, is able to deliver very specific trending information. We're a lot more focused on the ideas, the expertise, and creating really a marketplace and ecosystem. So, we have a database right now of over 30,000 different pieces of investment content, and we do have a data warehouse and look at that sort of stuff. But in terms of selling that data out the back end and how we package it, we're not there right now. I'd envision us a lot more as complementary tools for fulfilling that mission statement. So we've actually been, testing some ways of doing this, whether it's promoted content from entities or conferences, and then as well as really just taking what we've already built in terms of a public communication infrastructure and allowing people to access that, in a more private manner to better engage their clients or potential clients, really as communication tools. So those are things we're exploring currently. But the data is obviously something that a lot of people are focused on.
Understood. Well, Peter, I want to thank you for your time. This has been tremendously helpful in understanding the mission and the future of Harvest, and we look forward to speaking with you again.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me again.